Okay, so I've got a little news for y'all, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. We'll see how it goes. Um, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, before I get started, as usual, there's Rocky. He's in his box with his fish and everything, all curled up, having a sleep. I put the ointment on his leg a little while ago, so he was a little bit mad at me for that. He got a break yesterday. I didn't do it yesterday because I was just too sick, and I just didn't do it. But anyway, I did it today, and he wasn't too impressed with me anyway. He doesn't like it when I do that. But it seems to help. It takes the stink out of it, and it seems to at least stave off whatever's going on with it a little bit. But it's still an ongoing issue. I mean, it probably will be for the rest of his life, realistically. The veterinarian, I don't know why it is too, but it's always $600. Doesn't matter what it is, we got to run $600 worth of tests. It's never $500, and it's never $700. It's always $600. I think maybe statistically they figured out that that is the amount, the maximum amount that most people, if they have the means, will agree to in order to have their pet treated, and in order to. But it's like, before we treat your pet, we're going to demand did you pay for $600 in tests, so that we can find out why this is happening. Now, even if you know why it's happening, you'll be told, no, you don't know. Nobody knows until we do the tests. This is what you get. And I mean, personally, I think it's a scam. I think it's more about money. Because years ago, if I went to a veterinarian with an animal, with an injury like Rocky has on his leg, and I had witnessed the injury happen. Okay, I was there when it happened. I saw what happened. And I told the veterinarian the story. Rocky likes to hunt snakes. Rocky chased a snake around behind the woodpile. A few seconds later, Rocky screamed and come out from behind the woodpile hobbling, and looking really shook up, and his leg was bleeding right in the spot where this wound now is. The old-time veterinarians would say, oh, sounds like he got bit by a snake. There'd be no $700 or $600 worth of tests have to be run. They'd say he got bit, the snake bit him. He was hunting the snake. He cornered the snake. He was getting ready to kill the snake. The snake didn't want to be killed, so it bit him. That's what happened. He met his match in that snake. No matter how great a hunter you are, at some point you will meet your match. And that's what happened that day, is Rocky met his match in that snake. Rocky is a great hunter, there's no doubt, but still, no matter how great you are, there's always somebody out there who can beat you. There's a lot of bullies have found that out the hard way, thinking that they could just take on anybody they chose to take on. But then one day they met their match. They met somebody who was stronger than them. They met somebody who could fight better than them. Or they met somebody who was crazier than them and prepared to take things further than they were. Either way, every bully eventually meets his match. Every great athlete eventually meets an athlete who can beat him. Every great boxer, no matter how many matches he wins, at some point he's going to get knocked out. That's just a fact. He may have a great career before that happens, but at some point he's going to meet his match. And I believe, as great a hunter as Rocky is, he met his match in that snake. In fact, I'm sure that's what happened. And if I were to tell a vet, if this was like 30 or 40 years ago, and I had a cat that happened to, and I took him to the vet and told him the story, I would be told, yeah, that sounds like that's what happened. And then the vet would look at it And the vet would say, yeah, this looks like a snake bite. This looks like what happens when a cat gets bit by a snake. And then they would treat you. They'd treat the animal for the snake bite. They do whatever is normally done for a snake bite. And you would pay for the consultation and you'd pay for the treatment. But you wouldn't have hundreds of dollars in testing to do to confirm that the cat was in fact bit by a snake. It'd be just, yeah, that's probably what happened. Cat got bit by a snake. Anyway, all right. So that's an ongoing thing, and it probably always will be. I don't have the money to pay $600. It basically, to me, I think it's an extortion fee. It's like, if you want your cat treated, you got to give us this money first, It's like the door fee or whatever to get in. And like I say, the fact that it's always $600, it doesn't matter what problem you go there with, it's always $600 worth of tests they want to run. Or when you take the cat there for some issue, they always want to test them for some unrelated issue, and coincidentally, it's always $600 worth of tests they want to run. I had a veterinarian there mad at me because I wouldn't get Rocky tested for diabetes. He wanted me to pay $600 for testing for diabetes. I told him no. He claimed that Rocky was vicious, if you can imagine Rocky being vicious, and that he couldn't handle Rocky, as I asked him to check out that thing on his leg from the snake. And he claimed he couldn't handle Rocky, and that Rocky was vicious. And then he said, I want to do $600 worth of tests on him to see if he has diabetes. And I said, well, you're claiming you can't handle him even to do what I want you to do. I said, if you can't handle him to do what I've asked you to do with him, then how are you going to handle him to test him for diabetes to the tune of $600? So I said, so no, I don't agree to that. Anyway, he wrote on Rocky's file that Rocky is vicious and has behavioral issues. All lies, there's nothing to that, but that's what he said. Anybody who watches this channel and has seen Rocky, can any of you imagine that cat being vicious? Really? I mean, he's a freaking big ball of love is what he is. Unless you're a mouse or something. If you're a mouse, well, yeah, then there's another side to him for sure, but I mean, people don't experience that. And I've seen occasionally other cats experience it with him, but then they give as good as they get, too. So, I mean, that's just a thing between cats, and it's a territorial thing and so on. But anyway, here's the thing. I have done something today, and I don't know if I'll regret it or not. I'm kind of going back on what I've said all through the life of this channel, and so I automatically, there's a part of me that I don't feel good about that. And I'm a bit concerned that by doing this, I may cause people to feel that they have more say over me than I'm willing to allow them to have. And also, because I do draw a small disability pension, it isn't a lot of money, but right now it's the only income I have. And I'm slowly freezing and starving to death on it. But still, it's better than nothing. And that's because of the experiments that were done on me in Toronto in 1976. I talk about that in previous videos. I was used for drug experiments. I was given massive doses of haloperidol. I was given LSD twice, lysergic acid. What people call acid, what people in the drug community call acid. I was given that twice. They even made black and white films of me while I was high on LSD. I was 8 years old and they did this to me. They give me a glass of water in the morning, a great big glass tumbler of water, and they told me to drink it. And I drank some of it, and it tasted really bitter. And I told them I didn't want to drink it. It wasn't good. It was bitter. And they said, "Oh, no, you have to drink the whole thing." And they forced me to drink the whole thing. And yeah, it was acid, you know. And then they made films of me going up and down a small flight of stairs, and doing different physical tasks. And then they also made a film of me in a booth answering questions with a clock over my head. And yeah, I saw the videos. Well, the videos, it was film. It was actually film on a reel that you run through a film projector. I got to watch those after they were done, because a nurse there actually took me into a room with a film projector and a screen and sat me down and told me that I was a film star. And and I remember when the film was being made, I remember the cameras there and stuff. Anyway, she told me I was a film star and I got to watch the films. Now, I've been told since that those films don't exist, and I'm a liar for saying they do, but I mean, they did. If they don't exist now, they were destroyed, but they did exist. And they were black and white films of me when I was 8 years old on an LSD trip. And yeah, not good. Anyway, that did affect my health in different ways. It made it hard to maintain employment and so on. And so I do have a small pension, and doing this may screw up my pension. And I don't know how that's going to work. I've added the thing to the channel. It's a buy me a coffee page. Like I say, I'm really unsure about this. I'm a bit ashamed of myself for doing it, because I said all along I wouldn't do it, wouldn't do anything like this. And I still feel that way. So I'm having a lot of inward emotions about it. Anyway, one thing I will say, I don't want anybody giving me money who can't afford to give me money. If you're in the boat I'm in, don't be giving me money. Don't put yourself in a position even worse off than you are. Because I'll tell you, I'm not giving anybody money. I'm not giving anybody any money unless it's for something that I absolutely have to have, or some service I absolutely have to have. Like I give the people at the gas station money for gasoline. I give them money for propane. I give the grocery store people money for food. And so on. So I do give money. It's not like but I don't give money just for the sake of giving money. There's nobody, I'm not putting $1 into the hand of some beggar on the street, or giving money to some charity, feed the homeless, or because I am the homeless, so I'm not doing that. But I can't afford to do it. And so I'll say the same thing to you. Do not give me money that you can't afford to part with. If you do, it's gonna, and I find out, it's gonna make me feel pretty awful. And I already feel kind of awful. So don't do that, please. And like I say, that the buy me a coffee thing may go away if I find that people start coming at me with an attitude like they now have a right. They have some ownership over me, and they have a right to tell me what to do or whatever. Then that may stop. It's one thing to make suggestions. Suggestions are good. I have no problem with that. I don't often follow them, but still, occasionally I have. Occasionally I've tried things people told me to try. Occasionally those things have worked, and occasionally they haven't. But I know it comes from a good place, so I'm not mad when people do that, although I often will say, no, I'm not going to do that. And I have my reasons. In some cases, what they want me to do conflicts with my personal beliefs and my personal position that I've taken on certain issues. In some cases, it's because I just know through experience that doing that won't work for me, and I just want to do what I know will work. especially right now, because I can't really afford to gamble. Because if I gamble and lose, it's going to be really bad. And so sometimes I don't take suggestions for that reason. And, sometimes I don't take suggestions just because, well, honestly, I don't think they're very good suggestions, although I appreciate that they come from a good place. And in some cases, that would be a good suggestion for somebody in a different circumstance. This is the thing, too. A lot of people who haven't lived the way I'm living don't really understand. They think they know more than they do about it. And that's a legitimate thing. They think they know more than they do, and they sincerely think that. And so they don't understand why their suggestion won't work. But anyway, I know it all comes from a good place. I know that they're not trying to harm me. I know that they're, in their own way, they're trying to help me. And that it's frustrating for people when they see somebody in a situation and they want to help them and they can't. But at the same time, in the end, I'm going to do what I think is right. I'm always going to have the deciding vote, because what I found is that the only person who can mismanage and screw up my life even worse than I can is everybody else. Like I do a bad enough job of it myself. I make a dog's breakfast of so many things. But whenever I have other people calling the shots, and I have had periods in my life where that has happened, it's been a lot worse. So for that reason, I retain the deciding vote, always, when it comes to my own situation and my own affairs and so on like that. So, like I say, if I see that it's causing bad issues with my pension, or if I see that it's causing issues on the channel with people feeling, well, I contributed $10 to your Buy Me a Coffee fund, and therefore now you have to do as I say. If that starts, then it'll just disappear. That's all, because then I'll figure out other things. As I don't need that. And I already don't feel right. I don't feel like I'll be earning that money, really. And so I'm bothered by that. I don't like to take money I haven't earned. I can rationalize taking the disability pension only because basically the government that condoned what happened to me in 1976, the government that allowed McNeil Pharmaceutical to come into this country and experiment on people, which is what they did. And this was McNeil Pharmaceutical that was behind a lot of what happened to me. I can narrow it down to a specific company. The same government that allowed that, that they compromised my ability to earn a living by doing that. And so for that reason, I can rationalize accepting a disability pension from that government, really from the taxpayer, because it's not the government that pays these things. The government has no money. Let's be clear about that. The government has no money. It's the taxpayer who pays. And that is unfortunate, because the taxpayer is often a victim of the government. I was a victim of the government because of what happened to me. The fact that the government allowed that to happen in its institutions, in its hospitals. And, but I wasn't a victim of the taxpayer. The average working man didn't do that to me. But it's the average working man who now is paying me a pension. And so I do have some issues around that, because I know it isn't really the government, because the government doesn't have anything. Government has whatever it can pull out of your pocket, So, and like I say, you didn't do that to me. So, I can't, I don't feel, to hold you responsible for it would be stupid. But just the same, I can justify in my own mind accepting the pension from the government for that reason, even though I know it isn't really the government that pays it. Because the way I figure it, that little bit of money they give me, which is not very much, certainly not enough to live on, they'd only take that money and send it to Zelensky in the Ukraine, or give it to some government-hired consultant to do a $5 million study that will just sit somewhere and go on and just gather dust on a shelf, and nobody will look at it anyway, or whatever, to commission some study of some situation that isn't even worthy of a study. But it puts millions of dollars into their friend's pocket, is what it does. So in that sense, I figured they're going to suck it out of your pocket anyway. So I would sooner get it than have these other ones get it. And as it stands, I'm getting a very small portion of it. So I'm getting just a few $100s a month is all I'm getting. And so, but still, it's keeping me alive, but only just. It's keeping me alive under really bad conditions. But anyway, the bottom line is, other than that, I don't really like accepting money I haven't worked for. I really don't. It's just, it doesn't sit right with me somehow. Now, I guess I can rationalize it by saying that, I haven't worked for the money in the sense that I haven't gone over to your house and cleaned up all the brush in the yard, or, cleaned out that garbage dump you've had in the back 40 or whatever. I haven't done that. At least with most of you, I haven't. Maybe there's some people watching where I have done that, but then if that's the case, you've already paid me, because I get paid at the end of the day or at the end of the week, or wherever I work it out with the property owner. Most of the time at the end of the day. There's one or two that I've been paid at the end of the week by them, but that's not the usual. But anyway, I haven't done anything like that for you, so, but then I guess making these videos is kind of work. I'm sharing parts of myself and my situation, maybe I shouldn't share as much as I do. I don't know. I may be making a mistake by doing that. But I suppose that could be considered some value for money, but I don't really know how much value. I mean, anyway, with this thing, you can put in whatever amount you want if you choose to. Now, the bank does charge me 60 cents per transaction. I have to pay 60 cents for every transaction. So, I mean, if you give me $1, just bear in mind I'm going to get 40 cents, I guess, out of $1, because the bank's going to take the rest. And then the buy me a coffee people are going to take money too, so I probably won't get anything out of that. But like I say, don't give me money you can't afford to spend. That's all. Because like I say, it's really going to bother me if you do that. And I already don't feel too good about this. So, and it's very tentative. It may need to go away. And we'll see. We'll see how it goes. That's all. I don't want to get too used to receiving money like that, though, either. I don't think it's a good thing to get too used to it. And so like I say, I'm just being very careful, that's all. All right, that's it for now. I put the link in the bottom there in the description for the videos. I've only did it for the last 3 videos. I'm not going to go all down through the channel and put that in. That'd be, holy smokes, can you imagine? And generally, the older videos, as a video gets older, it gets watched less anyway. It just kind of disappears down there into the land of disappearing stuff, I guess. I don't know. Wherever that thing goes that you drop and it just disappears and you never see it again, and you can't figure out, how it could possibly have done that, that's where the old videos go, I think, into that same place. Anyway, that's it. We'll talk to you all later.